Hey fish friends, today I wanted to make a little video about the nitrogen cycle and quickly, actually not about the nitrogen cycle, but more about how to quickly cycle a tank. What you're looking at is my multifasciatus tank. Actually, I just got these fish recently, and this tank has been set up like this for about 3 weeks now, and you'd think that that's not long enough to be established before adding fish, but this was actually a tank that was running for quite a long time, actually, a few years, and it was a community tank, and I ended up taking all the fish that were in the tank and putting them in different tanks that I own, and moving the plants out of there and putting them in other tanks, and then completely rescaping this tank to represent kind of the shell bottom of Lake Tanganyika. And so, obviously, if you set up a new tank, you need to make sure that you do the nitrogen cycle, and that can take anywhere from 4 weeks to 8 or 12 weeks, really, depending on how you're doing your cycle, before you can really add fish in there safely. However, I've been able to add fish very safely because of the method that I used, and I do frequent water tests and have not had any issues with any high traces of ammonia or nitrites. Actually, little to none, actually. And then just a fair, just kind of a lower amount of nitrates, acceptable range, enough to know that the tank is cycled. And really, what I did is it's all about the old beneficial bacteria, keeping it alive and then reintroducing it back into this tank. So what I did is I took some of the filter media out of one of the filters and housed it in one of the sumps of one of my other tanks, so that it can continue to get a fresh supply of good tank water, and be able to pull the ammonia and nitrites out of the water that the fish produce from their waste, and then turning those into nitrates. And then when I set this tank up, I was able to put the filter back into the tank once I dechlorinated the water and got it all set up. And then I just had to make sure that I had that I was able to feed the bacteria by having some little pieces of food and things like that. I actually put some fish waste in there as well, just to make sure that the bacteria could continue to grow and stay alive and not die off. But really, what you want to do is, and there's no magic way of cycling a tank. As you look at all the different videos and read the different blogs and things like that, there are a lot of different ways, and there's a lot of advice out there on how to do the cycle. Anywhere from adding pure ammonia, to putting in a piece of fish or shrimp and letting it decay, to using fish food and letting that fish food decay, to adding bottled bacteria like Fluval Cycle or API Quick Start, which I do recommend. I actually use the Fluval Cycle myself, and I did throw some in here just as a backup. And it's something just great to have on hand all the time. I always have a large bottle of it in one of my stands. So, but anyway, really what you want to do is, as you're in this hobby, you're going to find more people that have a similar interest in fish keeping, and you really want to ask them for old filter material. Say, hey, I'm setting up a new tank. Do you have an old filter or an old sponge or something that I can use? It can be a rock or anything to put in your tank to get the bacteria started, and really make sure that that's starting off on the right foot. One thing that you do want to do is, when you get that filter material or a sponge or whatever it is from the other hobbyists, you want to make sure that you keep that filter wet, and you want to keep it in the water that it came from, so the tank water or some dechlorinated water that's fish safe and ready to go, because you don't want to put it in any chlorinated water that's going to kill off the bacteria. And then you want to make sure that once you quickly get it back home to your tank, and then be able to put it in the tank and start feeding it, so that the bacteria stays alive. So what I'll do is I'm just going to show you, kind of give you an example of what I've done. I'll show you an old filter, I'll show you a new filter, and then I'll show you what I did with mine. All right, here's an old filter that I pulled out of one of my other tanks today while doing water changes. As you can see, it's an old filter. It's got some detritus and stuff in there. There's clearly some bacteria in there as well. Is very black because this actually came out of my 65-gallon African, not my African, I'm sorry, my South American planted tank, which is a dirt substrate. So a lot of the black that you see there is actually dirt. It's the soil, organic soil that got kicked up during water changes and things like that. But anyway, this filter had been in there for some time and it was ready to be changed out with a new filter. So this would be an example of something that I would use in giving to a new, a hobbyist that's starting a new tank, or someone that's new to the hobby in getting their tank started. Maybe not this one because of the dirt, but something very similar, maybe from one of the other tanks. And here's a clean, unused filter. This is what you get when you get a package of filters, or if you're getting a new tank and it's kind of a whole kit. It's going to come with one of these, but you really don't want to use this when you're starting a new tank unless you don't have any other option, as it doesn't have any good bacteria on there and it's really not helping. All right, here's the sump that I have under the African cichlid tank that you just saw. So this is where I stuck the filter down there when I had broken down the community tank, and as I was building the shell dweller tank. I kept the filter in there so that it could continue to get water from the tank. Obviously it's being fed by the ammonium nitrites that the fish are producing from their waste, and the bacteria was able to continue to grow and not die off. And then if you can see back there, that's actually a sponge that I always keep on hand. So I use that sponge like for a hospital tank or any kind of backup. So I always keep an extra sponge in my sump to keep bacteria growing. Now this is an example of something that I would be able to give to a friend of mine that's starting a new tank. He or she could ask me if I had any material. I could just throw this sponge in a bag of water and quickly bring it over to their house or to their tank and let them put it in their tank, and then they can get started.